Weak Boy is the only one that can level up so he becomes the strongest with all stats maxed out. Jinwo is your typical Chad. Joking. He's an ugly, disgusting loser with nothing on his life. His father went to buy milk and his mother is in a coma. This leaves him a broke, useless guy who must feed his younger sister with his E-rank hunter skills. 10 years ago, huge gates appeared all around the planet, releasing several monsters to destroy the population. Humanity had no chance to fight them as weapons didn't deal any damage. Yet, suddenly, some humans awakened some special powers. Those humans are known as hunters. Hunters are classified based on their magical power from E rank to S rank. Humanity managed to survive for the next couple years with these new powers, but they still must clear the dungeons that show up. If they don't, the dungeon will accumulate magic and open up, releasing monsters back into the world. 3 years ago, that thing happened in a nearby island. An S-rank dungeon wasn't cleared and monsters filled the island. Hunters tried to clear it, but in the end, the ant monsters were stronger. We see several men around a construction site. One of them, named Kim, is getting some coffee as the server wishes him good luck with today's raid. Another guy named Park calls Kim out, who asks him what he's doing here as he had quit being a hunter. Park explains that his wife is pregnant, therefore, he needs to make some money. Kim replies that there's nothing better than a good raid to make some money. However, Park is worried because his skills were already bad, and he feels he will be worse since he hasn't raided in a while. Suddenly, everyone's attention turns to Jinwo, who's just arriving at the scene. Jinwo stays humble, mentioning that he's looking forward to work with everyone today. Even Kim greets Jinwo, asking if he's already eaten. Jinwo confirms and continues walking. Park gets curious and asks if Jinwo is a strong hunter since everyone seems happy to see him. Yet, Kim giggles as he realizes that Kim retired before Jinwo started to raid. Kim reveals that Jinwo has a special nickname, the weakest hunter of all Mankid. Park is confused because he was expecting something like the strongest. Kim explained that Jinwo is an E-rank hunter who always gets injured even in E-rank gates. Therefore, people call him the weakest hunter. However, Kim thinks that since Jinwo is here, this dungeon is going to be easy to complete. Kim tells Park to stop talking about it because Jinwo might hear them. However, Jinwo sighs as he could hear everything. While walking, Jinwo hears a familiar voice mentioning that he's hurt again. He notices Juhi and greets her, mentioning it's good to see her again. She asks about what happened to his face, but he replies that some stuff happened. She asks what happened to him and he decides to explain the story. She finds out he ended up hospitalized and he reveals that despite raiding an E-rank dungeon, he was the only one who got hurt. She's confused on how, but he explains that everyone else was high-ranked, so they didn't bring a healer. She complains about it. Because they think everyone is overconfident, they wouldn't get hurt. Yet, Jinwo admits that it's his fault because he's weak. But still, he's already used to getting hurt. Jinwo then notices it's about time to start raiding and tells her to get going. They meet Song, an experienced hunter who asks if they're fine with him taking charge and being the party leader. Since he's the highest rank, everyone agrees. With all set, they open the gate and enter the dungeon. As they get in, Kim tells Jinwo to stay close to avoid getting hurt. Jinwo pulls out his knife, mentioning this is the only piece of equipment he can afford. But still, he will give his best today and enters the dungeon. Meanwhile, Go, the president of the Hunter Association, tells his right hand that he met the government who asked them to avoid dungeon breaks. However, they also demanded them to supply goods that have been acquired inside dungeons. He doesn't feel like those demands are unbearable as they make money from reselling goods obtained from the dungeons. Those goods are crystals that people obtain from slaying monsters. Inside the dungeon, Jinwo is seen covered in blood with a crystal in his hand. He's happy that he managed to defeat a weak goblin, but Juhi tells him to be careful. Another goblin attacks him, but he manages to block the attack. The goblin continues attacking, but he evades everything. He gets a chance to attack and tries to piece the goblin, yet, upon contact, his blade shatters. The goblin wastes no time to stab him. Juhi is worried about him, but Park comes forward and defeats the goblin. Jinwo removes the blade from his stomach and lays on the floor as he's losing blood. Park tells Juhi to heal Jinwo while he defeats the nearby monsters. Juhi rushes to Jinwo's aid and starts using her healing skills. While being healed, Jinwo sees everyone easily defeating the monsters and feels envious. President Go continues to explain that essence stones obtained from high-rank monsters can be used to make stronger weapons, which in return enables hunters to defeat stronger monsters. He also mentions they can obtain mana crystals mined from dungeons and make weapons with it. However, its quality ain't that effective. His right hand doesn't understand why the government wants them. President Go explains they want to use them to create a new type of energy, safer than nuclear, and more efficient than the normal energy sources, that will lead to less pollution, creating a true green energy. But they can only create it if the hunters clear the dungeons. Back in the dungeon, Jinwo was healed and the group managed to defeat the boss. Juhi is healing him again and asks why does he want to become a hunter so badly. She explains that if he keeps doing the same thing over and over again, he will find himself in big trouble. Jinwo apologizes, but Juhi complains. She doesn't want an apology, she's just worried about him. Song talks to everyone, explaining the raid is about done and everyone starts talking about their drops. Jinwo then looks at his essence stone and feels pity for himself. He risked his life just a pitiful reward. Suddenly, another guy shouts, mentioning there's another entrance nearby. Everyone is confused, but Song reveals that sometimes there is double dungeons. Some see this as something strange, but most of them think this means their rewards will be bigger. Song talks to the group, explaining that the dungeon gate doesn't close unless they also defeat the second dungeon's boss. Usually, they should report this situation to the Hunter Association and wait for a decision. But that also means other hunters might come and steal this boss. He decides to make everyone vote if they should go for it or not. There is 13 members in total, half of them vote yes while the rest votes no. Jinwo is the one who will decide the fate of the party with his vote. Jinwo thinks to himself that this dungeon is too dangerous for him. But he's broke, and he must find a way to send his sister through college. He also has to pay the fees for his mother treatment. Therefore, to protect his family, he decides to say yes. Meanwhile, we see some people perform their Hunter Awakening examination in the Hunter Association. A guy places his hand on a black crystal and they measure his amount of power. We find out that there are several groups called guilds. They recruit hunters with potential and train them in order to complete dungeon raids. However, the strongest hunter in the country is known as Hien, a guild vice leader. She's a hella cutie blondie who's an S rank. Back inside the dungeon, some members think they're venturing too deep. They've been walking for 40 minutes already and mention on they have 1 hour to leave the dungeon after defeating the boss. Therefore, they have about 20 minutes of leeway. Jinwo uses this chance to apologize to Juhi. She asks why and he explains that he's the reason why she was forced to stay and defeat the second boss. Juhi says she's okay and he shouldn't worry about her. He insists, asking if she's sure, but Juhi reveals that she's mad. She yells at him, asking if he's a psycho. She explains that if he was stabbed a little higher, he would have a hole in his chest. Not only that, but his arms and legs were almost removed. She also reveals that her B rank healing barely managed to heal him. She calls him reckless and asks why did he agree to come. She asks if he hurt his head and asks for an answer. Jinwo apologizes and thinks to himself that the only reason why he's still alive is because Juhi is a B rank healer. If it wasn't for her, he would be dead. She asks if he's really sorry and he confirms. She suddenly flirts with him, mentioning that he should repay her with a dinner date. Jinwo is confused, but she gets mad asking if he doesn't want to spend time with her. Jinwo blushes, literally explaining she's out of his league, but he would love to. Suddenly, someone mentions they have arrived to the boss room. Some members are confused because they never found a boss room with a door before. They think this is strange, but Kim asks if they're going to head back empty-handed after coming this way. He claims that they could be the first ones to discover the new dungeon. Therefore, if they want to return they can. However, he will be going in even if it's alone. Meanwhile, the guy who performed his hunter examination is watching President Go in a video. In short, he explains how careful they should always be and survive despite their rank. They all open the doors and step inside. The torches all around the room start to light up as they step in. Some are impressed as they never seen anything like this room, but they should hurry up and look around. The group sees several statues standing around the room, and Jinwo notices another one sitting on what it seems to be a throne. Jinwo thinks this one is the bigger one, but the group starts to mention how they feel like they're being watched. They then notice something strange. There are no monsters inside the room. Song then notices the floor and sees what it seems to be a magic circle. Kim calls Song out, mentioning there is a statue with something written. Everyone gets near the angel statue and notice the inscription. Song reads it out loud, mentioning those are the commandments of the Kartanen Temple. First, they must worship God. Second, praise the God. Third, believe in God. And those who don't obey should die. Juhi freaks out and calls Jinwo, mentioning the eyes of the giant statue moved and looked at them. Jinwo is confused and says she must be imagining. Suddenly, the door closes. Everyone freaks out, wondering if they're trapped. Of the members starts walking towards the door, complaining they didn't want to come here in the first place. He touches the door, and suddenly a statue moves and slices his head off. Everyone is shocked and starts screaming. Jinwo falls into despair, thinking about the rank of the guy who just died. He knows the guy was way stronger than himself. The statue returns to the original position, but Jinwoo still cannot move as the guy was killed in an instant. He doesn't understand who this monster could be in a D-rank dungeon. Jinwoo then looks at the bigger statue, paying attention to every detail until he sees its eyes moving to look at him. Jinwoo starts having a flashback about the moments he faced life and death situations. He was separated from his team during his first raid and ended up injured by E-rank monsters, forcing him to spend several weeks in the hospital. Later, he almost starved to death while trapped in a maze. He explains that hunters spend their money earned from essence stones to buy more weapons to defeat stronger monsters. However, he always only had money to buy cheap butter knives. If the knives broke, he would be forced to fight the monsters with his fists. He didn't even have money for clothes, but he kept going. He never earned much money and was always mocked by other hunters. Therefore, he always looked for loopholes to survive. He had to observe everything in detail to get his chance. Upon returning to reality, Jinwoo shouts at them to get down. The statue shoots a laser beam with its eyes, slaying several hunters. The ones who survived are shocked at this scene and start to panic. Luckily, Jinwoo managed to save Juhi, but she's panicking in fear. He looks around confused about what happened and how they ended up like this. He knows they're trapped and cannot escape. In the end, he freaks out because he knows they will all die. Watch this next video. See you on the next one.